She is the pioneer creator and founder of Basilica the Art Her. It is a theatre, it is an art, it is a lifestyle, and a performing art production. The style of dance, music, costumes and films were choreographed, composed, designed, directed and produced by Basilica herself. She is an internationally acclaimed multi-talented artiste who was born in Indonesia of mixed parentage. This has contributed to the value of her work through Australia, Indonesia, South Korea and Finland, Africa, Greece and Canada. Basilica has quite a list of achievements to her name. She has earned 3 award-winning medals in Danse World Cup 2013 Canada, as well as being accepted as a Cirque du Soleil artist. As part of her charity action, she recruits and nurtures young talent through practical art education, especially orphanage children and teenagers. Sandy. Sandy has always been passionate about expression through dance. She loves to write and has written all the stories except for one in this program. She also loves creating costumes. Cooking is another joy, and you can sample some of her sweet delights after the show. Diana. Diana is passionate about dancing and teaching. She says she was born with a pencil in her hand because her other passion is sketching and painting. Her subjects range from portraits to seascapes and imagery. Joyce. Joyce, believe it or not, is SOS's most popular doctor. Not only does she love to dance, she is also an accomplished singer and performs internationally with the Batavia Madrigal Choir and other groups. And Olivia. Olivia's joy is dancing and singing. She is a television presenter and is in great demand for Master of Ceremony work. Her favourite people are her 2 dogs, Chico and Miko, but she loves us humans as well. Last but not least, we have Basilica's dance students, the B Talent dancers, who have all been trained at the B Talent studio. Today, you will be introduced to the world of myths and legends. A myth is a story from ancient times, one that is told to explain natural events or to describe the early history of a people or their beliefs. A legend is a story from ancient times about people and events that may or may not be true. Welcome to your imagination. ancient times, the peacock was a dull bird without the colours you see today. Long ago, there was a man who was tremendously wealthy. The greatest prize in his life was his collection of precious stones. These he kept in a cave under the ground where no one could admire their beauty, and he alone could sit and stare at their glittering facets in the light of his candle. Above the cave at the entrance to its pathway, a peacock kept guard day and night. His shrill voice at the ready to alert the man should someone come by. Now the Earth's creatures are very sensitive to their surroundings, and on this particular day the peacock could sense something strange and dangerous drawing closer to the cave. The air had become still, and all the birds had stopped singing. Then, very gently, the ground started to shake, and the peacock knew that an earthquake would follow. Shrieking, he ran into the passageway leading to the cave to warn the man of the impending disaster. The alarmed man tried to gather up his jewels, ignoring the urgency of the peacock's warning. In the time lost, the earthquake breached the cave, splitting the ground beneath him and the walls around him. "Help! I can't see!" cried the man, as the dust and particles of the collapsing cave whirled around him, filling his eyes with grit. "Stand behind me," said the peacock to the man, and lifted his huge tail feathers high and wide, like an enormous shield, to protect the stumbling man from being blinded. They staggered along the path to the cave's entrance. Ragged with dust, they fell out into the light as the last of the underground cave disappeared like a storm into the earth. The bedraggled peacock and the man regarded each other in the ensuing silence. And like a thunderclap, a moment of clarity struck the man as he realized how foolishly he had valued his life. He said, "Beauty is all to share, and no beautiful but cold, dead stone can compare with the gift of life." The man implored the wise spirits of the universe to reward the peacock, so all generations to come might see and learn from his folly. As the peacock began to clean himself from the dust and rubble, his body took on a strange, luminous shine. And as he removed more and more of the dust, glorious colours glowed where plain and drab had existed before. Then he stretched and spread his tail feathers. There, for all to see, were 1,000 glowing jewel-like eyes, shimmering on an enormous, fantastic fan. In answer to the man's new insight, there stood a bird with the most beautiful plumage in the world. "Now, you will never forget how wealthy you really are," said the wise spirits to the man. So that is how the peacock got his amazing colours. Have you ever noticed, however, for all his beauty, the spirits did not change his screeching voice, that with which he tried so hard to warn the man of the danger. His tail feathers, jewel-like eyes, remained and remind us it's more precious to have nothing but someone watching over you than the return of a cold stare from a beautiful stone in a lonely room. The peacock's wife, who is a drab, unnoticeable bird, is somewhat jealous, although secretly proud of her husband. And while he is sleeping, she slips on his gorgeous new attire and parades in front of the mirror, displaying the beautiful colours of his deed. of the sirens of Atlantis. Lost on the high seas, mariners would hear the most beautiful, haunting songs, calling them through the mists, and they would steer their ships by these songs, hoping this direction would guide them to safety. Little did they know the voices of these mystical sirens, creatures who in legend appeared as beautiful women to the human eye, were in reality cruel, misshapen, bird-like harpies, luring the sailors to their deaths as they guided them blind onto the sharp rocks of their island. Alas, the hopes of finding love and shelter in the beauty of those voices were shattered as the ship smashed into the rocks. The sirens would then attack the poor sailors with their sharp claws and plunder their precious cargoes. Please welcome Aladdin's ladies as they tell this story through a three-set dance. First, you will see what the sailors hear from afar. Next, you will see the sirens weaving the desires of the sailors into their imaginations. And finally, you will witness the exultant joy of the harpies as they bring yet another ship to her doom.